G'day everybody, here we are on the diorama build again. So the walls got, the last time you saw them I had done the darker colour over the top of them. I'm about to do a brown wash on them. For the walls there's a stain that runs below that dividing line, and for the building it's more so to just pick out some of the darker details and highlight the render effect that's on that we did with the render before we painted it. The process is pretty easy. It's the black wash just with brown wash added, same as what you saw with the space crates if you've watched that video. So liberally putting it on. I'm trying to get it into shadow lines where there definitely would be darker build up, improve the contrast in those, dabbing it off. It goes on dark. It's on dark now, but that is intentional because we will be dry brushing over it, so it is going to lighten up quite a lot when you put the dry brushing on. So you can see the difference between an undone one and the washed one. And so now it's up to doing the wall. The wall, same thing, pretty easy, but I wanted to have runs. In the pictures there's runs below the line of the wall. Not quite sure in a deserty thing what would have caused it to be runs, what kind of grime there might be, but I wanted to put those on. So the idea was to put them on fairly heavy right underneath the line that's on there, the engaged bit, and then to thin that out and make it look more runny, then to soften all of it off and see what happens. When it's softened off, I did want to go back in and put some of those lines in a little bit stronger, which I did. A little bit up the top, but we're not trying to do too much up the top because we don't want it to look like the bottom. The bottom there is a distinction in the colours when you have a look in the images. So it's like the engaged line in the wall affects how something runs, like it's a what do you call it, a damp course or something like you have in a house. So the bottom is distinctively different from the top. I did make a mistake a couple of times in both this wall and the next wall, and I left it in because when I was doing things, it might actually be in the dry brush stage. There's a couple of places where I've gone a little bit too heavy, and it's really easy to fix. This is not a thing that you should get freaked out about when you're doing it. If worse came to worse and you put too much on altogether, you can go back and paint it and start again. So one of these things is that you should never get so wigged out when you're doing it that you think, what if I do it wrong? It's not so much a right. You certainly can do things too heavy, but you could always sponge your lighter colour over the top. You don't have to start from scratch. You can start from scratch if you really, really blew it, but you don't have to start from scratch. So same process again, find the places that you want to do dark. Because of the first one, I found it easier doing the second one because I already had worked out what I wanted to do, and on that first one I'd done a couple of things twice, whereas this one I was just able to learn from the first one and do it. So again, just put it on, dab it off, get it into the crevices where you want it, try and get it even on the top of the buttresses, the same as the walls, so that you don't have any blank spots or any obvious blank spots that haven't been done. So you can have lighter things, but you don't want it to look like you missed something. So, and again, under the wall, get the heavy. It's a pretty heavy wash. When I was on there was enough on there in places where you see those darker bits that I'm dragging down now. There was enough to drag the runs down from it. This is a really cheapy artist brush that I used to do it, so it's not super technical. It's just grab it and try with a really light touch to pull it down so that it feathers out and disappears when you're doing it, and looks more like a run that's just run out of juice, not enough water or things to keep it running any further down the wall. It's evaporated. So, and again, add those in a bit darker, just define them. I want them to be there after the dry brushing goes over the top. And there you have it. They're sorted out. At this point in time, I started to get quite excited about how this is really going to look, because it's coming together well. So that's the second wall done. There's some stills coming up to show you just a static one. The colour's different, but that's pretty much about what the colour is. After the dry brushing, I was quite happy with the way that it looks in comparison to the photos. So there you go. You can see those runs there. They're not over the top, but they're there. So the downpipes just got painted white, and then they got washed when I did the wash on the space crates. So the video's a little bit out of sync for the washing photo that's coming up, but it made more sense including the downpipes in this bit rather than just talking about them with the space crate video. So there was I ended up having to do 2 coats of white on them just to get them to be white. I don't want them to look as sandy as the wall colour after they're washed, because they are different in the show. So they got a wash and they still contrast. After the washing had dried, I went through and painted out the door jamb and the tread. So same thing again, like the downpipes. I wanted these to be, when they get their wash over the top of them, to not look like the wall colour. It is a lighter, whiter thing. So they got their details done on them. That's a handy shot, that one. You can see absolutely nothing. I figured that out after a little bit, and we changed the camera angle. So in the subsequent paintings, it's over my shoulder. It's a bit tricky learning what things are going to show up where. So I'm just filling in the door jamb here. I didn't do the door white before the orange coat, but in hindsight I would, because it took me 3 coats, which you'll see when the doors are done, to do the orange part of the doors. So when they're finished, that's them just coated white. They'll get a wash on them, which will even up that line. So it's good to be as neat as you can, but it's not. Your wash and the stucco-ness gives you a real lot of forgiveness in terms of what you can get away with. So I did try and stay pretty much to the line, but there's a stucco-y rocky thing up against it, so it's hard to keep a very straight cutting in line. And I wasn't worried about the door because it was getting painted. But as I said, if I ever was to do it again, I would actually paint the door orange. So that's the door jamb after it's been white painted. Now it's the dry brushing bit. So this is just straight acrylic white, really light on. I dipped the brush in, but I wiped most of it off the paper, and it wasn't very often that I dipped it back into the paint. There was a lot more that I just picked up off the paper than that I got the paint out of the pot for. So it's only a really light thing I've gone. I did go quite heavy with it to lighten up that thing, and you can see now that the dark that was dark isn't anywhere near as dark as it was, because that lightness picked up all the top edges really well, and gives it quite a salty, earthy sort of a look to the wall. And there's a still of it all. So let's do the second one. Now this is where you'll see in, I think, the bottom corner near the buttress, it gets too heavy there. So I go, oops, I've done it. Easy fix. Get some of the brown out, the wash out, and just really lightly put it back over, and you can sort it out. So it really isn't. This is one of those things that if you make a blunder, it's quite easy to fix. You just figure out where it's too dark with whatever it's too dark in, and hey presto, transformed. So that's the first of the walls with its dry brush on it. It's a pretty fan-doodly sort of wall. Same thing up the top. You want a little bit of the white up the top, but we don't want it so heavy as to dominate that wall. And we don't want the top wall looking exactly like the bottom one. There needs to be the difference in them. So they're made from the same materials, but something happens at that engaged pier line that doesn't happen to the top of the wall. So second building to do give it a dry brush, learning from the first one, if there was anywhere that you were too heavy or you were too light, or what angle to hold it at. It's a little bit tricky holding it in places. Thankfully with dry brush though, you don't tend to end up with a lot of it on your fingers because it's gone on dry. Get some still shots for you. Same thing with this. I think I went a bit heavy up the top from memory. Yeah, a little bit too much, and all I did was, again, dabbed it off and sorted it out with a little bit of colour to back it off. So if you make a bloop, fix, sorted. So that's that one done. That's both the walls sorted out. Really, really easy finish this. Dry brushing is quite a good technique on buildings and stuff. So now it was glue the back wall on. So I put the glue down. I didn't do the building as yet because I didn't want the building. I have to still paint the doors on the building. So put the screws in. Would have been better to put the screws in before I put the liquid nails on, but oops. So because this was already pre-assembled, I knew that it was going to be straight when I found the hole, and it was. And there we have it. So this is where we start seeing things come together, and it's looking, I'm pretty chuffed with how it's going to be. Looks like we'll get enough distance for all the figures that I wanted once those pencil topper, the helmets go on. So then it was paint the door orange. So a little bit neater with the cutting in here, because I do, although the wash will define the edge and the join and cover up again a multitude of cutting in sins, I don't want to rely on that to fix everything that goes wrong. So it was still try and cut in quite neatly with the orange. The orange took 3 coats. I did actually have to do 3 coats to get it to cover properly, with about 2 hours in between. So that this first coat was at about 5:45 in the morning, and I finished the 3rd coat at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then it's when it was all dry, I went to do the wash. So it's brown wash for the door jamb because we want it to look dusty and dirty, and then the black wash for the door because I wanted to give it a bit more of an industrial metal sort of a finish, so it didn't have the brown in the wash. Now at the bottom of the tread where people walk, I tried to leave a little bit more built up so that you could see that the grime might go in where everybody steps on the door. So there you go, a little bit of washing there. It's taken the edge off the white so that the white's still contrasty to the building but not stark white. It's still taken back a bit to be grungy, and starting to look good on the thing. Do the second one. You can see there that it builds up quite into the corner, so like I said, where you've got the cutting in line, the delineation between your white and your stucco finish, the wash covers that up. You don't have, it doesn't show as much, so if you're cutting in, it's tricky around the rocky bits and the sticky outy bits on the stucco finish. The wash fixed that up, and that's just a line that your eye isn't automatically drawn to for, oh gee, what happened there? So it's an easy finish to do. So pretty heavy, trying to get a build up, trying to get it to stay into the doors, the black wash, I want it to build up around the edges so that when I dry brush a silver over the top of that to give it a metallic-y door finish, it does actually, you've still got the black in the recesses, and then the silver will highlight the top edges in the same way that the brown wash got the recesses of the stucco part of the building, the render part, and the dry brushing highlighted the top edges of it, and you get that nice contrast between the two of them. I'll point out at this stage too that those screws did fill in like I thought they were going to, and you don't know that there's screws behind that plaster. It filled in well, and even the hole that's in the left one there, about where the screw was still just looks natural when you see it on the building. So black wash in, make the door look like it's been opened and closed 500,000 times. Now just putting a dry brush of this is a Citadel paint, what's it called, Necron compound, so it is a dry brushing silver, and the idea is that you put it on with a very, very dry brush and just whack it across the top edges so that it builds up. A little bit on the door jamb as well, so down the bottom, so that the front edge of the door looks a bit silvery, but it's not as pronounced on the white of the door tread as it is on the orange and black of the door. So that's those two done, and now it's up to assembling them. Coming up, I've put all of the helmets on pikes and I got them out to spray them, so this is a couple of, just after we finish with this one, you'll see some shots of all of our helmets sitting on their little bits of timber ready to go, and they've been, at the time of this voiceover, they've actually been sprayed, and I'm up to painting the detail on the helmets, and then we'll be able to glue them down with the building. So thank you for watching. Again, there's some Redbubble designs. Please, if you like them, buy them. That helps. And other than that, have a really great day. Thank you for watching.